You see, what's the difference between joy and happiness? Happiness may give smiles, put laughter on our face. But happiness is just what the word describes. Happiness depends on what happens. Therefore, you call it happiness. If your hap is good, then you're happy. If your hap is bad, then you're unhappy. It all depends upon happenstance and whatever happens. But joy depends upon the Lord. It is supernatural. It is not natural. And therefore, because that joy is supernatural, that joy is steadfast. It is not happiness. Happiness is like a thermometer. It measures and registers conditions, but joy is like a thermostat. It controls conditions, and happiness evaporates in the time of suffering, but joy is often deepened in the time of suffering because we come to the Lord and we depend upon the Lord.
I watched somebody's video earlier, and I don't remember what it was they said, but whatever it was, it like pricked something in my heart. And it made me feel compelled to discuss something that I don't discuss on social media. I don't know why. But I felt like, I guess it was for somebody, like somebody needed to hear what I was about to say. Growing up, I had, there were 7 of us, and we were so close, all of us. It was 4 boys and 3 girls, and I remember thinking about like what life was going to be like for all of us, and how when we grew up, we were going to do all kinds of wonderful things. And then I thought about all the wonderful things I wanted to do for my younger brothers. Like I wanted to pay for their college. I don't know why that was a thing where I was like, I want to pay for their college. I want to, be able to put my suits on, because that was my dream, was I was going to wear a gray suit with my hair in a bun, and I would be off to work with my briefcase, and I would just, be doing all these miraculous things for all the, for the people in my family. And, things didn't go that way. So in my life, I had 3 younger brothers, but one of them would pass. And he didn't make it past 19 years old. And we went, life continues to go on. And then I had remembered having a conversation with somebody about 7 years is usually the time of grieving. And then after 7 years, I don't know, but it's supposed to get easier is what they said. But at the 7-year mark, my youngest brother passed, and it was like devastating, because you expect for you don't expect for those things to happen, but you expect for the things that you envision to come to fruition, and you expect yourself to have time. But the more life you live, the more things happen. Life, God, the Bible says that man is but a few days in much trouble, and trouble does come, and we have to deal with it. But I'm saying that because what God did for me was He gave me a gentleness and an ability to deal with people who are grieving, and to be able to speak life into them, and to minister to them through that horrible hurt place, and to let them know that you will smile again, there will be joy. Because even in my moment of mourning, I remember the day of my brother's funeral, the first brother. I remember his funeral, and I remember one of my friends, taking it so hard. And I remember just talking to him about God is saying, let's be grateful, let's be grateful, let's be grateful. And let's just think about all of the things. And I just start making jokes. I start talking about things what he would have liked and not liked and things like that. And he stopped and was like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be here to comfort you. And I just laughed, and he's like, I don't understand how you are this way right now. And I said, because I have the joy of the Lord. And I feel compelled just to share that, because you don't know what life is going to throw at you. But if you have the joy, you don't know what circumstances may come, what horrible happenings will you may see at your front door. But the joy of the Lord, it literally is your strength. It will pick you up and help you get to work every day. It will motivate you to get out of the bed when you can't figure out how you're going to do it. It will feed you. It will clothe you. It will shelter you. Yes, the joy of the Lord. So I don't know who I'm supposed to be saying this for, but I'm supposed to be saying it because we don't go through things for just to be going through them just because God is trying to torture us, but God is building us up in areas. And when I think about that, I think about how, he has strengthened me to be able to minister to so many people in such hard times, and how he gives me this strength, this inner peace to do it. And I don't think about, well, God, why did you allow? Because that's his business, why he decided to take his children with him. I can say I appreciate the time you gave me. Appreciate it. I would have loved some more, but I appreciate what you gave me. And so I just feel like, I don't know if that's you, if you're dealing with loss or grief or what, heartbreak, anything, you need to get you some joy. Get you some joy, and you can only get that from the Lord. I don't care what you can't work enough, you can't save enough, you can't shop enough, you can't trip enough, you can't do anything enough to get that kind of joy. So if you don't have it, I suggest you get it. I highly recommend it. It is the best thing that you can absolutely do for yourself. It is sustaining. It will keep you. It will rock you. It will lull you to sleep when you feel like you just can't gather yourself. Just get you some joy.
This is the secret to being joyful in suffering. And I feel like God came through and revealed this to me, because currently, bro, it's just a weird period of life at the moment. But God showed me how to be joyful in the suffering. And I hope this encourages someone, because for so long, I didn't know what that meant or how to do it. But basically, we're going through James in my Bible study. And basically in chapter 1 verse 2 it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Bro, I've grown up with this. I know that we are meant to be joyful within the suffering, but for so long I didn't know what that actually meant. I didn't know how to practice that. And I was like, do I actually just fake it in the suffering? Do I have to put on a smile even when it hurts so badly? Or is there like another way? Like, what is this way? And it's so interesting, because verse 5, it says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind." And that was my prayer for a week. I was like, God, I don't know what this joy means, but can you just give me the wisdom to understand what this joy means and how to have this joy in my life, despite the trials and the suffering that feels like is going on in my life at the moment. And man, God comes through, bro. God comes through. This was honestly the first time in my life where one of the promises that God says, so he said, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault," that actually came to pass in my life within that week. And it was just so interesting. But we were going through James in Bible study, but in my quiet times, I was going through Hebrews actually. And I was going through Hebrews 11 this one day, and this is when, bro, the Holy Spirit just connected all the dots for me in how to be joyful within this suffering. And so Hebrews chapter 11 talks about the pioneers of the faith. So Abraham, Moses, Isaac, Jacob, all these people that had faith. And it starts by saying, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." And then after that, it says, "By faith, God did this. By faith, Abel did this. By faith, Enoch did this. By faith, Noah did this. By faith, Abraham did this. By faith, Sarah did this." It was all by faith. Right? And just bear with me, because like this blew my mind. It talks about the pioneers of the faith and how by faith they were able to do all these things, right? The reason that they were able to have this faith, in verse 10, this is talking about Abraham. It says, "For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God." And then in verse 26, this is talking about Moses. "He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward." And bro, it was just like a light bulb switch in that moment, that all these people, the reason they were able to have faith within the trials, within the persecution, within God calling Abraham to go out of his hometown into a foreign land, is because they were looking ahead to the reward that awaits for them after this life. And I connected that passage in James talking about joy. Consider it pure joy when you go through these. And I was like, God, how do I consider it pure joy? And he tells us, look ahead to the reward that awaits for us, the ones who are in Jesus. And God revealed that in the moment, in the circumstance, in the suffering, I'm allowed to be sad. I'm allowed to feel lonely. I'm allowed to feel angry at the circumstances. But the joy doesn't come within the circumstances. It actually comes from looking ahead to what God has in store for us. That's why all of them were able to have faith, is because they understood that this life was so temporary, that the sufferings they face, that the trials they face is so temporary in comparison to the eternal joy and the eternal riches that is in store for us when we are with Jesus in heaven forever, when we're in the presence of God forever. That was the reward. And so I want to encourage you that I know it's like a switch of the mindset, but you have to realize that even though we suffer, even though there's so many trials in life that may kick us down, don't worry about the circumstance. The circumstance, you're allowed to feel that sadness, you're allowed to feel that loneliness, but have joy in what Jesus did on the cross and how he set you free from sin. And because of that, you have an everlasting joy in heaven and an everlasting peace and love in the presence of God. And so if you are facing trials and temptations, if you're facing a time of just suffering at the moment, I know, as hard as it sounds, to have joy, don't worry about the circumstances, but have joy in what Jesus did and have joy in who he is and what we have awaiting for us in eternity. And so hopefully that encourages you.
Maturing is realizing true joy and happiness comes from the Lord. I don't care what car you drive, what house you have, if you're married to a supermodel. If you do not have the Lord, you do not have true joy and happiness. And I say this because if all of that was taken from you, how would you feel? If all of that material stuff was taken from you, how would you feel? I drive a 2012 Chevy Impala, and I am as happy as can be. My car is paid off. If this car was to break down, I've been through worse. I've had to catch buses. I've had to walk places. When I was in college, I was taking the train to work. And all the Lord does is continue to bless me in seasons that he needs me to be blessed in. But I'm truly happy with where I am because I seek only joy from God. No man on this planet could tell me, oh, your car is trash. Okay, it's paid off. Oh, okay. It gets me from point A to B. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have joy from the Lord, you won't be content with anything. You'll never be happy. You're always going to be running this race of life where you need more. You're going to always go different places and leave good things because you're just not content with where God has you. The question I always ask myself to make sure that I'm always seeking joy in the Lord is, if God took everything away from me, would I still be happy because God is near me? That's my prayer always. God, don't ever let me get away from you. Don't let anything on this planet take me away from you. And that's how I'm always content with everything that I have in this life, period. And I'll never try to leave the Lord to please man.
Hello, Nene here. Welcome to Grow in Faith. I would like to share a summary of Derek Prince's sermon on the fruit of joy. I'll share the link in the description box and the comment section. For the body, the type of satisfaction that we look for, I would call pleasure. In the soul, the type of satisfaction that we look for, I would call happiness. But in the spirit, the type of satisfaction that we look for, I would call joy. So pleasure is in the body, happiness is in the soul, and joy is in the spirit. True joy comes only from a direct personal relationship with God, not from external circumstances, pleasure, or happiness. The testimonies of David and Habakkuk illustrates this truth. David, despite facing oppression and uncertainty, chose to seek God at the altar. Saying in Psalm chapter 43, verse 4, "Then I will go to the altar of God, to God my exceeding joy, and upon the harp I shall praise thee, O God, my God." David's joy was not in his situation, but in God himself, whom he called his exceeding joy. Likewise, Habakkuk, even when facing total material loss, made the decision to rejoice in God, as seen in Habakkuk 3, verses 17 to 18. Though the fig tree should not blossom, and there be no fruit on the vines, though the yield of olives should fail, and the fields produce no food, though the flock should be cut off from the fold, and there be no cattle in the stalls, yet I will exalt in the Lord. I will rejoice in God, the God of my salvation. Joy does not rest in the emotion, it rests in the will. It's a decision. Everything has gone wrong, but I can still go to the Lord. And when I go to the Lord, I have joy because the Lord is my joy. And though situations and circumstances may change, the Lord doesn't. That's how it is possible for a believer to have continuing, uninterrupted joy, not in his body, not in his soul, but in his spirit.
Here are some Bible verses for people who are struggling, especially with fear and anxiety. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Do not let your heart be troubled, nor let it be fearful. John 14:27. Psalm 55:22. Cast your burden upon the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never allow the righteous to be shaken. Philippians 4:6-7. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Hebrews 13:6. So that we confidently say, the Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. What will man do to me? These are the words of God.